Oi! Yes! We're back. It's a new week. UFC 268. Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington 2. We've got a big week of fights to break down, you guys. We're going to concentrate on just one of them today. UFC 268, Shane Burgos versus Billy Quarantillo. You guys, I've been watching tape on these guys all day today for like the last 5 hours, and I am so amped for this show. These guys don't take a backward step. They both got amazing conditioning. They both throw a ton of volume, and they both love to break their opponents with pace and pressure. It's a very similar styled matchup here, but I can't wait to get into all the numbers of it with you guys. Coming off a rough week for me last week, man, I had a big bet on Virna Jandiroba. I got absolutely shaved on that one. She won the first round and looked really good, and then she fell apart like a Chinese motorcycle in the second and the third. Congratulations to Amanda Hebas. Congratulations to all you Appletini drinking bettors on Hebas who cashed those tickets. You got the best of it this one. I got the worst of it, but we got to move on to the next week. And by the way, I do want to address one of the worst beats I have ever had as a gambler, and that was the fight doesn't go to decision for St. Denis against Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Vyacheslav Kisiev, go fuck yourself. That was the worst reffing performance I've ever seen in my life. You took years off the career of a very young and very promising fighter in St. Denis, and if you never step foot in a cage and never ref again, it'll be too fucking soon. Eat a dick, you fucking asshole. And let's see, do we have any other orders of business? Oh, yeah, Albert Duraev not being able to finish Kopylov. Boy, he was beating the living shit out of him, and Jason Herzog just wouldn't stop that fight. I had fight doesn't go to decision for that one. I had Duraev inside the distance. I had a lot of bad beats this weekend, but I had a 4.4 unit bet on Peter Yan that cashed. I had a fight doesn't go to decision bet for Kamayev Lee that cashed. I had a fight doesn't go to decision at plus money for Gamzatov Oleksiejczuk that cashed. And I got a whole lot of new spots that I'm looking at this week. Hopefully we can find some in this particular fight, because this is going to be not only fun to watch, but maybe we can find some spots in this one. But the props have been slow to trickle out. Hopefully some of them will be trickling out here while we're doing the show today. I will have you guys out of here by 6:30 p.m. Central Time so you guys can go over to Pub Sports Radio and watch the Die Hard MMA podcast with my guy Clint. I'm going to be watching that as well. Let's see what you guys are up to here in the chat. We got Grateful Dude, the first in the room, saying, great fight to go deep on. I'm really looking forward to this one. Man, me too, man. And we got my guy 2 in here saying, let's get it, Weezy. Let's make some money this weekend after Virna heft us over. Yeah, man. You know, she had a good first round. We knew, and I had said, you know, if you're going to bet Rebus, better by decision. But, you know, I really did expect to see much better wrestling out of Virna. She was shooting from way outside. Her hands looked slower than they did in the Murata fight. And I just didn't see it, especially in the second round after she had dominated the first with her top control and her pressure. She didn't shoot for takedowns early in that second round, and that was definitely a very bad game plan. It reminded me of Laura Procopio's performance against Casey O'Neill, where she came out and she dominated the first round and looked fantastic, and then it just fell apart. So, yeah, we'll see what she brings next time. She'll probably get a slightly easier opponent because she's already had 3 of the toughest tests in the entire division in Hebas now, Dern, and as long as she doesn't get Marina Rodriguez, because she's already had a Carla Esparza as well. So maybe they'll give her a bounce back spot, and I hope that they do. But Grateful Dude saying the ref in the Dos Santos fight screwed me over. I think he had his own bet on that one. That was unbelievable. I've never seen that much incompetence ever. It was such a joke. What a absolutely piss poor performance by Vyacheslav Kisiev. Go fuck yourself. And then we got Dan Goldstein in the room saying, I just dropped in to see what my condition was in. Morning, gentlemen. Dropping my like early because I have to dip for the pony races. Go make that money on the pony races, Dan. Big up yourself. And we got Raw Torque saying Weezy always brings the goods. We got my guy Dan saying I only bet the pony on Melbourne Cup Day. Here's hoping I've not bet on donkeys. Well, I bet on a couple of donkeys last week, man, but we got to get over it. We got to keep moving forward here. JSJ23 in the room. Banger of a fight and deserves the main card spot. Absolutely, man. It is such a good fight. I've been watching tape on him all day. I can't wait to get into it with you guys. Danny got in the action on the Contender Series. Dan saying, 2, not yet, brother. I've still looked at the odds yet. I'm behind because I'm a Melbourne Cup, but I'll do my tape tonight. Yeah, and if you guys are looking for places to check out Contender Series content, check out my guy Narco Cop MMA. Look at his YouTube channel. Does fantastic work on the Contender Series. And also check out my guy Liam Picks Fights. Does an amazing job on the Contender Series. Both of those guys are just stacking cash tickets like flapjacks on DWCS, and I would absolutely recommend you check out both of their shows. Oh, and John Kelly. John Kelly does a Contender Series show also that's also very good. So check that out as well. John Kelly DFS. And we got my guy 2 out there saying, did my research last week and feeling pretty confident. Dan saying, have a look at Narco Cop show and also John Kelly's DWCF. All right, I'm right there with you, man. And Dan saying, I have no credibility this week. I bet on Jan by violence and didn't hedge on Glover by sub. Rookie moved half my profit back to the bookie. That's a bummer. Yeah, I did not see, I was saying if I had to bet, I would have bet Glover. I said it on the main event breakdown. I did on DFS by the Numbers channel, but really, I did think that Jan was going to win that fight. His takedown defense had been very, very good over the last 10 fights, but Glover just absolutely got the job done. Congratulations, Glover Teixeira, 42 years old, becoming the light heavyweight champion. What a fantastic story. What an amazing mixed martial artist. What a credit to the sport, Glover Teixeira. That was just awesome to see him get the job done. And fight goes to decision is at -150 on my book, says David Dennett. Wow. -150 for fight goes. Boy, these guys are so tough. Two saying, at Raw Torque, I'm really high on Burlinson. Achilles should get a free win. Shang fight over 2.5. And let's see, Davidson, I really like that line. 2 great strikers should make for a fun-ass brawl. Yeah, absolutely it will. And 2 saying, and Kanan is worth the money line, I believe, tomorrow night. So Kanan, who has been on the Contender Series before, I forgot who he lost to. Was it Kirk? No, Kirk was the guy who lost to Billy Q, actually. And Shane Burgos is a poor man's Rob Font, says Danny Lopez, and a much bigger Rob Font, even though he's only one weight class bigger. And let's see. This guy says I got so-and-so by Jandaroba and Blahovic. Yeah, well, Jandaroba got me so good. I did not have any money on Jan, but yeah, that's a rough week. We got to get it back this week. 2 saying Kanan by finish is the smart move, probably. David Dennett saying Shane hits harder in my opinion, but Font is more technical, faster, and better all around. And we got, I just skipped past some here. Let's see what we got. Oh, wow. You guys are absolutely killing it in the chat. And Dan Goldstein saying, back to the gulag with that clown ref. And David Toppin saying, bless up, Uncle Weezy. Appreciate that, David. We got Jack Attack saying, what up? Still going after Vasily. We got to find that guy, man. David Dennett saying, true on the ref. What the absolute hell. Hope St. Denis is alive and can fight again. Yeah, me too, man. It would be such a shame to see that that changed him in any way, because St. Denis is such a great prospect. And I was saying on the way in, why are we giving a guy with 8 professional fights, Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, in his UFC debut? Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos has 8 UFC wins. 8 UFC wins, 8-3 in the promotion. That is a huge step up in competition for St. Denis. I know that they think highly of this kid, but come on, man. They could have done better for his debut performance. They could have found him just about anybody but Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. So that was some very curious matchmaking there. And congratulations everybody who was on Zaleski dos Santos on the money line there. That was a great bet. And Jack Tech saying, I tailed you on the Gamzatov fight doesn't go to decision. That was a great plus money target, man. Good call. Yeah, and Jack Tech, that's something that Brady and I always talk about on Stat Diggers, is when both guys have a 100% finish rate in their losses, it means that, you got, when you're getting that spot at plus money, it's just a bet that you got to make. It's an auto bet, especially when, you've got a decent sample size of losses, like 3 or 4 or more, and you're seeing 100% finish rate inside the distance. That gives you a really good indication that that fight is not going to see the bell. So yeah, that's a great bet. I'm glad you tailed me on that one. Sometimes the best bets are the hardest ones to make, and that one is a hard one to make because Gamzatov brings a real slow pace, and Oleksiejczuk, Oleksiejczuk brings a very fast pace. But yeah, he really brought it to Gamzatov. Great performance by Michal Oleksiejczuk, and that was a great win. And Jack Tech saying I should have gotten off Virna when I found out she was walking out to Island Boy. Yeah, my shout out to my guy Monk. The Monk Mentician, he was telling me that she was coming out to that song, and he's like, "Does that change your opinion?" And I was joking around on Twitter. I was trying to get out of my bet, and I actually was trying to get out of my bet on Virna because the line was moving against me, and I really kind of thought more money would come in on Ribas. I jumped the gun. I got that bet back in, I think it was back in early September that I made that bet. So FanDuel never let me out of it. And I did want to get out of it, but they never gave me the opportunity. So, and then when I heard she's coming out to Island Boy, that made me sick because, I can't stand that shit. But anyway, yeah. And Bout Better saying AZ Virna gassed. Yeah, she definitely did. And I played all dogs on a night when only one dog won. My God, man, that's rough. There was also a tapped missed in the opening bout. Really? Wow, was it Nascimento tapping Tagir or the other way around? I missed that. David Dennett said, I don't know about gassed. Ribas ain't a scrub. She was the better fighter that night. She was absolutely the better fighter that night. There's no question about that, David. Charlie saying, how do you feel about Colby this weekend? Well, I did a main event breakdown on my guy DFS by the Numbers channel. We went about 45 minutes into that fight. We went into detail, into the stats, into tape, into what we thought would change this time around. I think there's value on the underdog here in Colby Covington, but I just, in order for me to think that Colby wins this fight, I have to count on things that I haven't seen yet. Improvements out of Colby Covington's ability to be able to mix in the wrestling this time around, improvements in his ability to throw even more volume and to take that big shot from Kamaru, because Kamaru's landing those big shots, and he's got newfound power, and that's terrifying for a guy that's as complete as Kamaru Usman. So I think Kamaru wins the fight, but I do think that Colby's got a lot of value on him at the current line. And David saying, picking Usman, but can't bet the line where it's at currently. Yeah, and I agree with you. I'm picking Usman, but I'm not laying minus 300 on a guy who fought about 22 minutes with Colby Covington, and it was a 50-50 fight. So if he doesn't land those big shots in the fifth, that could have been Colby winning that fight, and we could have had Colby as the champion. So to lay minus 300 when it was that close for 22 minutes, it's a big price to pay. And Papa Placid Penis in the room saying, what up, Unc? I hope everyone did great betting UFC 267. Jan was the parlay shitter for me. Had an 8-leg parlay. I almost won, ready for the next event. Gotta hedge out on the last legs, my man, because you're getting plus money on Teixeira. When you get 7 out of 8 legs in a parlay, hedge out of that last leg and guarantee yourself a profit. There's nothing worse. There's no worse feeling than losing the 8th leg of an 8-leg parlay when you cash your first 7. All right, sorry about that. Let's see here. And we've got Bout Better saying, I tell John Kelly as well as Burt MMA. Burt MMA does a lot of low-level MMA content on some of the regional shows. So he's definitely one of the OGs out there and providing that kind of content. Shout out Burt MMA. And we got Cody Eichholt saying, Bout Better Virna did not gas, my dude. Stop making excuses and accept the bad read. Yeah, completely disagree with you there, Cody. She absolutely fucking gassed. And that's not taking anything away from Amanda Hebas by saying that, because Amanda Hebas didn't gas. She kept her foot on the gas for the entire second and third round and convincingly won both of them. Virna absolutely gassed, but that takes nothing away from Ribas's performance. She was absolutely dominant in the second and third and deserved to win that fight. She was the better woman that night. Jack Attack saying Kanan lost to Hooper. Did he really? Didn't know. Oh, was that the guy that Hooper beat on the Contender Series? I was trying to think who that was. Okay, good call there. And let's see, Bout Better. Yeah, she got dominated. Yes, she did. B saying catching this just now, fading Billy and Rose. Okay. And we got Thomas saying Weezy. What's up, Thomas? Good to see you, brother. And we got B saying Usman all day, but it's juiced. Gaethje has never been in a fight that went the distance. That should be the lock of the century. Someone is losing consciousness. I know my guy DFS out by the numbers is looking for that fight doesn't go to decision for Gaethje Chandler, and I will be with you on that bet as well, B. What we do have to admit is that this is a 3-round fight, and don't forget that Gaethje has been into the championship rounds twice. So let's not forget that little piece of information that he has been into a 4th round once and into a 5th round once in the Ferguson fights, and I believe it was the Poirier fight. Definitely, though, Chandler has been kind of like emptying the gas tank in round 1. So B, I'm absolutely with you there. Big Joe Cleveland saying, Unc Weezy, what's up, brother? What's up, Big Joe? Good to see you, man. B saying Colby by Brunson Stike and Brunson style rear naked choke. Wow. And Monk saying, what up, Weezy? What up, chat? Good to see you in here, Monk. And let's see here. Bout Better saying, I already placed Burgos in a parlay with Alex Pereira. Monk saying he's not sure what his best bet is, but he's on Kamaru rolling, probably Bobby Green, maybe Edgar for the win. That would be interesting if Edgar could pull that off. It's minus 335 Usman right now. God, yeah. Not betting that Kamaru line currently. That Edgar Vera fight can be a banger. Yes, well, it will be a banger. Every Marlon Vera fight's a banger. Jack Attack saying, I feel like this card is far better for dogs than last week. Well, how couldn't it be, Jack Attack? Only one dog cashed, and it was in the main event. And let's see here. All right. Yeah, Burt MMA. Somebody was saying Burt MMA is what? God damn, you guys are killing it in the chat. Burt MMA is in trouble. I didn't know that. The worst feeling, luckily, it was a Hail Mary, but one of the definitely snatching the money on the last legs. Yeah, that sucks when that happens. Cody saying agreed. B saying it's a main card for the fans. Rose is probably in for a long beating to a decision loss. Gaethje by KO. Oliveira KO'd with a left hook. Bout Better saying he is not fading Rose. We got my guy Alexander Havas in here saying, bad beat for us on Virna Weezy. We win some, we lose some. Yeah, the bad beats for me were the Duraev inside the distance. The Duraev fight doesn't go to decision, and the St. Denis fight doesn't go to decision. It's the worst beat of all time. Virna, I made a bet on Virna. I really thought she was going to be able to out-wrestle Amanda, and she flat out didn't. I don't call that a bad beat. I call that, for me, a bad bet because I overbet her. I jumped the gun too soon before I did the tape. And, we got to learn from our mistakes. We got to be humble when we win, and we got to learn from our mistakes when we lose. That's how we get better at anything in life, including betting. And I want to get as good as this as I can, get better for you guys as well as for myself. But Alexander, thanks for joining us, man. It's always good to have you in here, brother. We got Monk saying we're going to see if Billy Q can take it to the next level this weekend. And Thomas Howard, Islam inside the distance, plus 135 was a max bet for you. Well, that one cashed, my friend, and it cashed comfortably. Well done. A max bet on a plus money bet, and you cash it. That's fantastic. Uncertainty saying, Uncle Weezy, you bet on Gaethje or Chandler? I haven't bet either side. I will be betting fight doesn't go to decision for that one. But in the meantime, I still got to take both of them and kind of get a feel for who I like better. About Better saying, my largest loss was Marcin Tybura, who really did gas. Yeah, Tybura had a great second round, and then Volkov, who looked like he was gassing, wound up having a great third round. But anyway, we're already 20 minutes into this Balls Deep breakdown. I haven't even started talking about this fight. So we're going to get here to the last of the chat. We're going to bring up my guy, Smooth Jimmy Apollo here. Share this screen with you guys so that we can bring up these stats. we can get into this. We got 40 minutes left before the Die Hard MMA podcast comes up. So let's get into the stats here. Right, there's Smooth Jimmy. And let me get this up here. We got the advanced stats, and we have the matchups here. And let's zoom in on this sucker so you guys can see the numbers. Let's start with the tail of the tape between these two guys. Billy Quarantillo older here by 2 years. It's going to be Shane Burgos, who's the bigger featherweight here, 5'11 to 5'10, and he's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. Shane Burgos is fighting out of Monroe, New York. So this is in Madison Square Garden. So he is going to be the hometown boy. The crowd is going to be behind him. Billy Quarantillo, also a New York boy. I think he's from Buffalo originally, but he trains down in Tampa Bay at Gracie Tampa South. So he is training out of Florida. Both of these guys Americans. So Billy Quarantillo a little bit older, and he's got a little bit of experience on him, having 3 pro fights, having about 44 minutes of cage time more than Shane Burgos. And we see about 5 more months in the game as a pro here for Billy Quarantillo. And then if we look at the UFC experience here, Shane Burgos, 9 UFC fights, Billy Quarantillo, 6. We got a 6-3 record for Burgos, a 5-1 record for Billy. And we've got about 30, almost 40 more minutes of cage time here for Billy Quarantillo, and the average fight time a little over 12 minutes for both of these guys. Now, Billy Quarantillo in his 5 UFC wins has finished 4 of them. Very impressive. 1 by sub, 3 by knockout, and his overall finish rate as a pro is 75%. He's finished 12 of his 16 pro wins inside the distance. And we see that Shane Burgos in his 6 wins in the UFC, he has finished 3 of them, 2 of them by knockout, 1 of them by submission. And overall in his career, he has got a 76% finish rate. So that would be 10 out of his 13 wins have come inside the distance here. Very impressive. 5 by knockout, 5 by submission. If we see how these guys are losing fights, we see that Burgos has been stopped in 2 out of his 3 UFC losses, both by knockout, while Billy Quarantillo has never been stopped in the UFC. Billy Quarantillo, 1 of his 3 losses inside the distance by knockout, and for Burgos, it's 2 out of 3 by knockout also. Let's get into the striking stats here, you guys. So we got them over here at the top left of the screen. Both of these guys throw a ton of volume. Shane Burgos spends a lot more time on the feet, though, so we see 14.62 significant strike attempts per minute for Shane Burgos, 7.29 landed with almost a 50% accuracy. He is landing a knockdown on 0.75% of the total significant strikes that he lands. That's 0.81 knockdowns per 15 minutes. He has landed 6 UFC knockdowns in 9 fights. Very impressive striking for Shane Burgos. We see that Billy Quarantillo here also throwing more than 10 significant strike attempts per minute. He's landing 7.08 out of 11 for a very high 64.37% striking accuracy, landing a knockdown on about 0.4% of the total significant strikes that he lands. That's 2 knockdowns in 513 significant strikes landed. That's averaging 0.41 knockdowns per 15 minutes. We see that Billy Quarantillo has got a really good significant strike differential here, and it's about 2.7 more significant strikes that he lands than he absorbs per minute. While for Shane Burgos, it's plus 1.18 significant strike differential for him. It's Burgos who's showing the much better striking defense here at 59%, while Billy Quarantillo, 43% striking defense. Both of these guys have been knocked down. Billy Quarantillo once he's been knocked down, and on 0.75% for Shane Burgos. So I would say that is he's been knocked down twice in 675 significant strikes landed. Is that no? I'm sorry, that's wrong. It's 0.6. It's about 5 times. He's been knocked down 5 times in his UFC career. Sorry about that. Trying to do math in my head sometimes, and sometimes I'm just not firing off as quick as I used to there. So let's talk about these guys striking a little bit. Both of these guys are pressure fighters. neither one of them really takes much of a step backwards. We know that Burgos is going to be the much bigger guy here. He's listed at 5'11". He's a huge featherweight. Quarantillo listed at 5'10". Both of these guys, though, have tremendous conditioning. They throw a ton of volume. They're usually never taking a step back. So it's a very interesting stylistic matchup here. You know, which one of these guys is going to be able to successfully pressure the other and do it with a little bit more consistency? Because whichever one of these guys yields to the other one's pressure is going to be losing this fight, because both of these guys are masters of pressure, volume, and pace. Shane Burgos hits much harder than Billy Quarantillo, but Billy Quarantillo does a really good job of throwing a ton of volume on the feet, mixing in the wrestling, and really just drowning you with volume. He's getting knockdowns, you know, or hurting people, but it's more of a result of just absolutely just putting it on them. If you want to see an absolute masterclass of pace and pressure, look at Billy Quarantillo's Contender Series debut against Camuela Kirk. In the second round of this fight, he absolutely just drowns him and then finishes him 22 seconds into the third. Kirk just wanted out of there. And like Jacob Kilburn, that fight was an absolute ass shaving. Spike Carlisle was a really close decision. Kyle Nelson, 7 seconds in round 3, he comes out there and finishes him. Gavin Tucker had success against Quarantillo because he pressured. He didn't take backward steps, and he was able to mix in his own wrestling in order to put Quarantillo on his back. And he really just kind of matched the pressure and the pace. And I think that that's something that Shane Burgos can do to Billy Quarantillo as well, because that's Burgos' game as well. So Burgos, though, not known to go to his wrestling. He's only got 2 UFC takedowns in only 2 takedown attempts. So this guy is a guy who absolutely prefers to stay on the feet, while Quarantillo, we'll see, is much more likely to go to the wrestling here, to mix in takedown attempts, to try to mix in those takedown attempts to win minutes and bank rounds, and also just, you know, get on top, throw a ton of volume. He loves going to his submission game as well on the ground. And when I saw him in his regional scene footage, I did see a guy who was a lot more comfortable with his grappling attacks and his wrestling attacks, whether it's from the bottom or the top. He was just a lot more comfortable on the ground. Now I'm seeing his striking start to take that next step. He's starting to learn how to use that striking to set up the takedown attempts, and also using the pressure and the pace and the volume to set up the takedown attempts and just outstrike his opponent. So both of these guys, you know, I think the striking is going to be the key for both of them. Excuse me for just a sec. Sorry about that, you guys. So let's get into these grappling stats here, and then we'll get back to the chat and see what you guys are saying before we dig into the strength of schedule stats here. So, all right, get this over here. So we are here in the bottom left of your screen right now with the grappling stats. And as I mentioned, Shane Burgos only 2 takedown attempts in his 9 UFC fights. And so he's not a guy who goes to the wrestling at all. He prefers to stand. That's where he's at his best. Although he does have a submission from his back against Kurt Holloway in the first round of their fight. He's not a guy that wants to grapple here. He wants to do what he does best, and that's he is a boxer first, a pressure boxer, a power puncher, power kicks, and he works the body and he works the calves. So this Burgos is a guy who works all the targets on the feet and does it all very well. And one of the reasons that both Quarantillo and Burgos love to work the body is because they have better conditioning than their opponents, and they use that pace as a weapon. But Burgos, we can see here, if we look at his grappling numbers, 0.27 takedown for 15 minutes, only 5.52% control time for. But check this out. Only 10.74% control time against here for Shane Burgos. This is very important, you guys. He's had 56 takedowns attempted against him in 9 fights. So his opponents are desperately trying to take him down. They don't want to be on the feet with this guy. His pressure, his power, his pace, and his boxing, and the diversity of attacks that he brings is too much for his opponents. His opponents want it on the ground. But here's the problem. For every one takedown attempt that Shane Burgos has, his opponents have tried 28 takedown attempts. So you would expect when your opponents are out takedown attempting you at a 28-1 ratio, you would expect that Shane Burgos is being out controlled by a massive ratio, but he's not. He's only been controlled 10.74% of his UFC career thus far, and that's on 56 takedown attempts. So let's look at the cage time here. 110 minutes of cage time, and he's been controlled for 10% of it, 11%. So let's just say 10% is 11 minutes. Let's say it's 12 minutes, right? 12 minutes of cage time, of control time for his opponents on 56 takedown attempts. That's not enough, you guys. That's less than 10 seconds of control time per takedown attempt. That's not enough. If Billy Quarantillo's path here is to mix in the wrestling to accrue control time, to not only get takedowns, but to accrue control time on top and fish for submissions, Shane Burgos is a very difficult guy to do that against. Even when you do take him down, he tends to get right back up. He's got great hips. He's got a great sprawl, and he's very big and very strong. So even when you do take him down, he's very difficult to hold down. And we see here Billy Quarantillo, if we look at, let's look. He's successfully defended 50 of 56 takedown attempts against, has Shane Burgos. That's just under a 90% takedown defense. He's only yielding 0.81 takedown attempts for 15 minutes, and his opponents aren't even really barely attempting any submissions against him. So Shane Burgos' grappling defense has been excellent in the UFC. Quarantillo in his 6 UFC fights has attempted 23 takedowns. He's gotten 8 of them, about a 35% takedown accuracy. He's averaging 1.66 takedowns for 15 minutes. And when he gets the fight to the ground, he's very active in fishing for submissions, averaging 1.66 submission attempts for 15 minutes. And here's the thing. Billy Quarantillo has been fantastic at accruing control time in the UFC. 40.74% control time for, only 16.47 control time against. So he's out controlling his opponents at a better than 2-1 ratio, despite the fact that his opponents have out takedown attempted him by 5 and gotten 4 more takedowns than Billy Quarantillo has. So Billy's been very efficient with his wrestling, offensively and defensively. We've seen a very poor takedown defense here at 57.14%. But we see that Shane Burgos only attempting 2 takedowns in 9 fights, probably not going to be the kind of opponent who's going to take advantage of that hole in Billy's takedown defense. I don't think Shane wants to be on the ground with Billy. I think he wants to stand up, work that boxing. So one of Billy Quarantillo's biggest weapons is mixing in the wrestling and using that to bank minutes, win rounds, and win it on the judges' scorecards, or use that wrestling and that pace to break your opponent and win fights in the 3rd round, which is something that both of these guys do an excellent job of. So I want to talk about that before, let's talk about that once we get into the strength of schedule stats here. So let me get this back to front and center here, and then let's see what you guys are saying here in the chat. Okay. Thomas Howard saying Marlon Vera fight week. My favorite fighter. I'm a huge Marlon Vera fan myself. Michael Vick was the owner of the dog kennels these ones came from. Oh my God. The Michael Vick jokes, they still don't age well, my man. My dog would go at, my dog actually went after somebody that was wearing a Michael Vick jersey on the street. My dog never attacks anybody. And the guy goes, "Why the fuck did your dog just try to attack me?" And I go, "Because you're wearing a Michael Vick jersey." And I just kept walking past him. And the guy had no comeback to that one. But he probably more than likely would have had a comeback if I wasn't walking with a 120-pound Rottweiler. But don't worry, I had him on a short leash and he didn't get anywhere near him. So anyway, let's see, put some of the profits on. Yeah, Bout Better saying Chandler doesn't use a lot of energy doing anything. But let's see here. We're talking about Vera. We're talking about other fights. Let's see here. Luke Filton saying it's Weezy, baby. You got that right, man. And let's see. Jack Attack saying Billy has almost as many UFC fights as Burgos, even though he's probably only been there half as long. Yeah, that's pretty crazy, right? Quarantillo has 6. Burgos has 9. But Quarantillo has 6 out of his 19 fights at the UFC level, and Burgos is 9 out of his 16. So Burgos has spent a bigger percentage of his career at the UFC level, but it's actually Quarantillo has a few more fights. And Bout Better saying, can Billy land the volume to slow Burgos down? I don't think you slow Burgos down with volume. I think you slow Burgos down with power, as you saw Cater do, as you saw Barbosa do. I don't know if volume is going to drown somebody with as good a conditioning and as strong of a chin as Shane Burgos. And Bout Better saying, don't both these guys just come forward? Yes, they both just come forward. This is why, like, I was going to ask everybody on Twitter, like, what balls deep breakdowns do you want to see this week? And then I was looking at the fights, and I'm like, man, I don't want to give them a choice. I want to watch tape on Burgos and Quarantillo. And then after I'm done with this one tonight, I want to watch tape on Gaethje and Chandler and do a balls deep breakdown on that one, because that one's going to be a banger. And then I might even do Yanama, Yunus, and Jang just to be selfish, because they're great fights. And I want to talk about these great fights. Yeah, they both just come forward. That's why this one is so exciting. And B saying, I actually didn't know Gaethje was a third. Still was thinking Gaethje in the fourth. Yeah, Gaethje was a third. I was thinking Gaethje in the fourth. Yeah. Gaethje had 2 fights that went past the third. One was the Poirier fight. One was the Ferguson fight. And the Ferguson fight, I think, went to the 5th. And Jack Attack saying, Burgos is way too big for featherweight. That probably hinders his durability. He's very durable, dude. He eats big shots. That Emmett fight, he was eating the biggest shots, you guys. And then his chin just finally broke against Barbosa, and that was just an absolutely nasty knockout. His lack of striking defense too. He and Bobby Green are hands down dudes, but Bobby Green they both move their head really well. B saying, Iaquinta's the fate of the card. Bout Better saying, if Bobby can land some takedowns. Yeah, let's see, Bobby and Al. I like Shane Burgos' reach advantage and his takedown defense. We got Tiffany Shriver in the room saying, thank you for the knowledge and entertainment. Thank you for hanging out, Tiffany. Appreciate that. Let's see, we're talking about Bobby here. Let's see. Sorry, Billy, but it looks like his grappling just isn't that good. Yeah, Billy likes to go to his grappling, but Shane Burgos is definitely good down there as well. PSS 831 saying, you the man, Uncle Weezy. Thank you, my man. I appreciate that. Bryce D saying, rely on Bobby to not make a fight close when he is such a big fave is a recipe for disaster. He makes every fight close. Bryce, I couldn't agree more. He makes every single fight close. Jack Attack saying, these stats scaring me. I already bet Billy. There's reasons to like Billy here. Burgos should roll against Billy Q, says Bryce. Daz File saying, anyone else thinks Jan tapped so quickly. Yeah, I think Jan knew he was in trouble there. Roy C saying, late to the party again. It's quite all right, my man. PSS saying, could this be a DK stack? Yes, it could, especially if other fights drop out, because, man, these guys are volume monsters. So, yeah, I could see this being a DK stack. And we got Andretti in the room saying, big up, Weezy. Back again. Let's make some more money. Let's go, Andretti. Good to see you here. The Cuban Assassin saying double stack Colby and Usman, Burgos and Billy, and then maybe get a couple of big studs in there to win. I could see doing that. And Bout Better saying that, Bryce D, so true. So let's get into these strength of schedule stats, you guys. We got about 15 minutes before I want to get out of here. So here, let's look at what we've got. The ratio overall of the wins and losses of the competition of Shane Burgos and Billy Quarantillo. Shane Burgos has a better ratio of competition, and his competition has had a lot more total fights. So the average record of a Shane Burgos opponent is 6.22 wins and 4.44 losses, while the average Quarantillo opponent, 2 wins, 1.83 losses. So we can see that Burgos is fighting the much more experienced competition and the competition with the better win-loss ratio on the aggregate. And then if we look at who these guys are beating, Billy Quarantillo is beating a guy with less than 2 wins and losses, 1.8 wins, 1.8 losses for a 1.0 ratio, 3.6 total fights. While Burgos is beating a guy with a 5-4 record, 9.17 total fights, 1.2 ratio. Burgos' wins a little bit better, and Burgos' loss is a little bit better, 1.73 ratio to 1.5 for Quarantillo, and he's fighting more than twice as experienced competition when he loses than Quarantillo is. And if we look at the last 5, we can see here that Burgos has lost by KO to Edson Barbosa, lost by unanimous decision to Josh Emmett in an absolute banger. So he's on a 2-fight losing streak. Before that, wins over Makwan Amirkhani, 3rd-round knockout, win by split decision over Cub Swanson, and a win by submission in the 1st round over Kurt Halabaugh. And then we see Billy Quarantillo here win 4 out of his last 5, win by knockout over Gabriel Benitez in the 3rd round, a loss by unanimous decision to Gavin Tucker, and then wins over Kyle Nelson, Spike Carlisle, and Jacob Kilburn. 4-1 in his last 5. But let's look here at the advanced stats. I want to show you guys some stuff here. And see, I've got it. I'm going to have to zoom out just a little bit, you guys. But so we can see all the stats on one page, I'm going to zoom out. If you can't see the stats on your screen, the link to all these stats are in the description of this video. Please feel free to download it and use it to help you make your gambling decisions. Excuse me again. Sorry about that, you guys. My throat's dry and scratchy, but so Quarantillo here has done a really good job of controlling his opponents. Here's the cage time column, and here's the control time column. So 520 out of 820. 314 out of 900, 208 out of 607, 284 out of 900, and 445 out of 498 against Kilburn. He absolutely dominated. The only fight where he was out-controlled was in the Spike Carlisle fight, but he still managed to win that one by unanimous decision, although it was a very close fight. And then we do see here some interesting stuff, you guys. Camuela Kirk, win by 3rd-round knockout. Jacob Kilburn, win by 2nd-round sub, win by decision, win by 3rd-round knockout, loss by decision, win by 3rd-round knockout. So Billy Quarantillo has finished 4 of his opponents, and 3 of those finishes came in the 3rd round. And if we go up here to Shane Burgos, we see a 3rd-round finish here, loss. A 3rd-round finish here by knockout, that's a win. A 1st-round finish against Kurt Halabaugh. A 3rd-round loss to Calvin Cater. And a 3rd-round win over Charles Rosa by knockout. So in the 5 fights that have finished for Shane Burgos, for and against, 4 of them have been finished in the 3rd round. And for Billy Quarantillo here, of the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 fights that finished, 3 of them finished in the 3rd round. So it's pretty crazy to think that 7 out of these guys' 9 finishes have all come in the 3rd round. And what does that tell us about the way that these guys fight? It tells us that attrition is part of their game plan. Volume, pace, pressure. When you win in the 3rd, you're breaking your opponent. It either means that they had a game plan that they couldn't keep up and you broke them in the 3rd, or your game plan, your offense, your pressure, your pace. Just pressure breaks pipes, you guys. Pace is a weapon. And both of these guys are winning and losing fights in the 3rd round because of the way they fight, because they're not, either one of them is neither particularly good defensively sound, because both of them are constantly coming forward, because both of them will eat one to give one. this is one of the best fights on the card for a reason, because these guys are so scrappy, because these guys fight so hard. But let's look at the lines here and see what we can find. So let me refresh the page, see if any more props have dropped here. And did they? Looks like they dropped some props just in time, you guys, for this show. 5 Dimes has props out here. If you're on Bet Online, you can get the under 2.5 rounds here at plus 120, the over 2.5 rounds juiced up to minus 150. And then we've got the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 100, and the fight goes to decision at minus 130. What would be an interesting bet here, in my opinion, with 7 of the 9 finishes in these guys' fights happening in the 3rd round, would be to bet the over 2.5 at minus 150 and then bet the fight doesn't go at plus 100. You could potentially cash both bets if another fight finishes in the 3rd round and it finishes between the 2:30 mark and the 5-minute mark, which a couple of these have. I think in the Calvin Kattar fight it did. I know in the Makwan Amirkhani fight it did. That could be an interesting little thing because both of these guys do tend to finish in the 3rd round, and it is absolutely a function of both of their styles. And these guys are both going to throw a ton of volume. They're both going to land a ton. I think I am going to see Billy going to go to that grappling a little bit and test that takedown defense of Shane Burgos. I think Shane Burgos will be up to that test, though. Almost a 90% takedown defense in 9 UFC fights against some really high-level competition. And as a matter of fact, I just want to talk about that for a minute. Let's look at this takedown defense here. So we saw that Gavin Tucker was 7 of 13 against Billy Quarantillo here. And in this fight, we had a 3 of 6 by Spike Carlisle. So we can see Quarantillo getting taken down. We see that's not very good takedown defense. But when we go up here to the Shane Burgos numbers, this is where you see some really good takedown defense here. 3 out of 19 in one of the fights. 0 out of 14 for Godofredo Pepe. 1 out of 12 here. 1 out of 7. And then 0 out of 1, 0 out of 2, 1 out of 1. So, this guy has successfully defended Shane Burgos. 50 of 56 takedowns attempted. And these are the guys he's stopping them from. Thiago dos Santos y Silva, Charles Rosa, Godofredo Pepe, and Makwan Amirkhani. All a bunch of guys who definitely do try to go to their grappling first. And they were all unsuccessful in doing so. And if these guys were unsuccessful in doing so, the only one who got any kind of control time was Makwan Amirkhani. He got it almost all in the 1st round. It's something we saw in Amirkhani's last performance on Saturday. The guy doesn't have much of a gas tank. He can wrestle for the 1st round, but if he doesn't get that submission, you can absolutely break him. And that's exactly what happened here when Shane Burgos fought Makwan Amirkhani. So both of these guys have tremendous conditioning. Both of these guys have a ton of heart. Both of these guys have no quit in them. And they both put a tremendous pace and pressure on their opponents. Who do you guys got here? Who do you guys got? That's what I'm interested to know. Let's see. The fight is a draw, the 5,500 on 5 Dimes. Quarantillo wins inside the distance plus 405. Burgos wins inside the distance plus 205. So the books think a much better chance here that Burgos finishes rather than Quarantillo. And then we've got Quarantillo wins by decision plus 335. Burgos wins by decision plus 165. This is such a banger. I think that the fact that Quarantillo has had his best success when he's able to break his opponents, I don't see him breaking Burgos with his power, and I don't see him breaking him with his pace because Burgos brings just as terrifying of a pace as Quarantillo does, and I think that he can use his defensive wrestling to make sure that this fight continues to stay on the feet, where he can maybe use that reach advantage, that power advantage that he has, and the straight-up boxing advantage. And I think that Burgos' ability to be able to mix up the targets, digging to the body, kicking calves, and going to the head will make all the difference here. I am picking Shane Burgos to win this fight. I think he can win it. Yeah, I think he can finish it in the 3rd round. I might be going both sides on the 3rd round props on this fight because I could see somebody breaking here because both of these guys bring such a pace that whoever does have success in implementing their game plan could potentially finish the other. And, you know, I am beginning to get a little bit worried about Shane Burgos' chin. The guy relies on his chin entirely too much. He's getting older. He's taking huge damage and huge shots from heavy hitters like Calvin Kattar, like Edson Barbosa, like Josh Emmett. Some of the biggest power in the featherweight division was just landing clean. And that delayed reaction in the Edson Barbosa knockout really worried me. That was a very ugly knockout for Shane Burgos. But I don't see Quarantillo having that kind of power, and I see Burgos having the answer to the pace, conditioning, and pressure of Quarantillo. I got to pick Shane Burgos here, and I'm going to pick him to win by third round knockout, you guys. Let's see what you guys got for me here in the chat before we sign off. And let's see here. Raw Torque saying, is Chandler a dog of the night? Dang, if he doesn't have a boatload of first round finishes. Yeah, well, that's the thing, you know. If he gets it done, it'll probably be very early. But, man, Justin Gaethje is just so tough, such a warrior. I don't see him breaking in the first round. DXJC, I'm leaning Billy Q, but I feel like this fight could totally go wrong for him at the same time. Shane Burgos is so good. Both these guys are so good. Luke saying he's on Chandler for the price. Chandler KO be a decent line to look at probably. And DXJC, so bet round 3 on both sides and pray for late violence. Hey, the numbers support it, you guys. We went over that. How many guys have you ever seen with this high of a percentage of fights finishing in the third round? And then you look at the style that both guys bring, and you would expect exactly that. And only one fight finishing in the second round for Quarantillo, and only one fight finishing in the first round for Burgos. Everything else is went to decision. Raw Torque saying once Chandler starts to feel those Gaethje kicks, he's going to want to close the gap and get her done. Yeah, that's for sure, because Gaethje just blasts those calves. Daz Files in the room with the eyes. Raw Torque saying Burgos split decision. We got Headley one here. Is that Headley one? Did I miss some? Oh, yeah. 2 saying just a tip after DWCS. Yes, sir. Headley one saying Benitez was big for the division and Billy Q dominated him. Tough spot here with Burgos' takedown defense. If Billy can't get the takedowns, he's in trouble. Yes, he is. And 2 saying just a tip after DWCS. Yes, indeed. 10 o'clock Central Time. Just a tip. Tuesday night, right here on Uncle Weezy's channel. Get ready for it, you guys. Burgos started putting his hands up more in the fight with Barbosa. Yeah, he's going to need to do that. DXJC saying Burgos is too big for 145. Dude should move up to 155. It would probably help his durability even more. And PSSA saying takedown Kisiev. And Raw Torque saying this could be an octane fight. MSG, big ring, huge crowd. 2 guys from New York originally here, although the more hometown guy at this point is obviously going to be Hurricane Shane Burgos. Man, this was such a great fight to talk about with you guys. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me here. I'm going to give you some minutes to get over to Pub Sports Radio. Check out my guy Clint on the Die Hard MMA podcast. You can check out a main event breakdown that my guy DFS by the Numbers and I did last night on his channel. DFS by the Numbers, the hardest working man on YouTube for DFS MMA. This dude yesterday did a full card breakdown on his own channel. He worked with me for 2 hours and 40 minutes yesterday on Stat Diggers, which is also viewable on Pub Sports Radio. The link to Stat Diggers in the description of this video. You got to check that out and go to the John Vellante Huggy Bear segment there that we did. We didn't talk about the fight at all, but we did talk about my idea for a Netflix buddy cop show starring John Vellante and Chris Barnett, which I want to call Fat John and Huggy Bear. And we're going to have Matt Serra on that show too. I want him on it. I want Ray Longo as the mafia crime boss. You know, I want Ally Quinta. We got to have Raging Al in there as like a great like wild card type character. Check out Stat Diggers. Check me out tomorrow night on Just a Tip. I will also be doing another Balls Deep breakdown tomorrow on my channel. And then at 6 p.m. Central Time on Pub Sports Radio, I will be doing the DraftKings show with DFS by the Numbers while he's on vacation. my guy Luke sparring with Reality Betting, and my guy AJ Shulo at AJ MMA Betting. You guys got to check us out. We do the DraftKings show every Tuesday night. So that's it. You guys, thank you so much for hanging out here. I'm going to say goodbye to you guys on my way out here. And we got, let's see, About Better saying, I appreciate the breakdown. Confirms why I put Burgos in that parlay with Pereira. Yeah, I like Burgos here too, but Billy Q's so much fun to watch. This is going to be such a great fight, you guys. Big props to you too as well, Raw Torque. Appreciate that. DXJC laughing at my Netflix elevator pitch there. We got thanks for the stream for Roy. Appreciate that, man. And we got the whole Sarah Longo crew would make great TV. It already makes great TV. When he was on looking for a fight with Dana White, I mean, Matt Serra, I mean, like, nobody really wants to see John Vellante and Chris Barnett fight. But can you imagine them on a buddy cop show? And I said, like, what's going to make this show different from all the rest of the cop shows is they're going to do all the normal things that every cop show does. But at the end, when they go to catch the bad guy, both Huggy Bear and Fat John are going to run after the fat guy, or are going to run after the bad guy. And because of their poor conditioning and lack of speed, they're never going to catch the bad guy. And that'll be like the wrinkle to the show, is that the bad guys always get away due to the poor conditioning of John Vellante and Chris Barnett. And then when John Vellante does actually catch the bad guy every once in a while and falls on top of him, he winds up getting choked out from the bottom like he did against Maurice Green when he exhausted on top. So it's going to be a great one, you guys. I hope you guys all join us. Hopefully this spring we're going to get this show made. But I appreciate all you guys hanging out with me. B, Luke Fulton, and DXJC. You know, you guys are the best. Thanks for hanging out with me for another episode of Balls Deep Breakdown. I'm going to head over to Pub Sports Radio and watch the Die Hard MMA podcast. Shout out DFS by the Numbers, who's on vacation right now. Dude did a DraftKings show yesterday on his own channel. He did a full card breakdown on his own channel. He did a 45-minute main card breakdown with me on his channel, and he did 2 hours and 40 minutes on Stat Diggers on Pub Sports Radio yesterday. Hardest working man in the business, putting me to shame, but I'm done for right now. Thanks for hanging out on another episode of Balls Deep Breakdown. Thank you for spending your Monday afternoon with me. God bless each and every one of you, and I will talk to you guys soon. God bless.